All right, BIC episode number 65. This is more of a smorgasbord episode. We got a couple of different topics that we'll touch on. We'll have some fun with it. We've already beaten a lot of the alteration and that talk into the ground, so we're going to leave that one alone. But we'll definitely have some fun with a couple of different topics. Brandon and I are protracted inside of a baseball fantasy league draft that may never actually end. So you're watching us as we're speaking. We're still in the middle of that draft. By next week's episode, we may still be in that draft. I'm not completely convinced we won't be. And I'm not completely convinced that by the end of this draft that I won't be drafting Eric. That's how far down the food chain we're going. Like we got to take what we can get. No, I'm like really holding out for like
basically
I need
Eric,
to get
right?
to the 20. I need to get to the 28th round before I'm willing to go that deep into my bench. But it's in play. The important thing is it's in play. That and more on this episode of the BIC podcast. All right. And by the way, that's not a joke. It's we're basically getting into the I don't know who this is. Like we're basically like taking shots in the dark. We're picking now. Part of the reason why, and part of the reason why I'm having some interesting fun with it is that I used to be really more into fantasy sports, also a lot more into the baseball, knew the lineups a lot better. At this point, like I've talked about it on the live stream, I am super casual in a lot of the sports that I watch. We kind of got roped into this one. We got a little bit of money on the line, so I figured I'd give at least a token effort into it. But at the same time, it's like I was telling Brandon before we got started is that I was trying to think like when's the last time I actually attended a game in person, and I think the answer was 2018. Now that is unusual for me because prior to that, I was 15 to 20 games per year at the Dome. Like I was there consistently. I was definitely attending. So that's like a quarter of the games, the home games. So I attended a ton of games and I watched a crap ton of games on TV. And at this point, I don't watch too many at all outside of the playoffs. In the playoffs, I definitely watch, but I'm very much out of the loop regularly. So a lot of times I'll be looking and I'm like, I don't know who this is. Somebody will draft somebody and I'm like, yeah, I have to go look it up. I can look at the stats, but I have no context for how they accumulated these statistics. I'm basically looking at it. So we've got a couple of guys who are trying to do advanced analytics. They're firing up the old war machine, but and my team name is War is a Lie. So clearly I'm not utilizing that metric myself. But I don't know. I'm okay with certain parts of my team, but we're going to see. I have no idea. But I feel like I'm trying to make a couple of value plays along the way. So I feel like I've made a few of those. But for the most part, I'm out of the loop.
Well, I'm just
I want to be Mr. Irrelevant.
Oh, you are?
Eric. My whole life is like that. So I want to be picked last, so I'm Mr. Irrelevant, and then I'll come back and win the Super Bowl.
Well, I'm a little confused because, see, before Carlos went to the guitar riffs, he said, I got to wait till at least around 28 before I dive that deep in my bench, speaking amongst drafting yourself. But he drafted Fish Boy in round number 2.
Oh, so he has a pristine spot on my bench. And I also, for the record, I also did that during my live stream in chatting with my chat. So the first 2 picks were during the live stream, where the first one, truthfully, the first one I chose based on getting input from the chat. I said who had been drafted, and they threw some names at me, and that's how I ended up choosing round 1. And then round 2, my question was, should I draft Fish Boy? And the answer was yes, and because everybody appreciated the irony of me drafting Fish Boy. Also, me drafting Fish Boy just before the next draft pick, which is Carlos Trout, which is one of the team names here. As like I said, we're all assholes is basically what I'm trying to get at here. We're all jerks. Every single person in this league is a jerk.
Yeah, and I said it in the Discord, but I'm being truthful. I picked a lot of players that play against the Nationals in the same division, and a big advantage for me with doing this fantasy draft and picking players on other teams is at least it gives me a reason to follow baseball again, because as you know, the Washington Nationals have not been worth the time watching since the World Series year and then the implosion of the entire roster. So at least I can kind of enjoy baseball again because, well, I can't watch my team. So
Look, you want to know what the most damning thing is? And I'll admit this because it made me laugh when I saw it. Here's the most damning thing. I said a couple of minutes ago, I used to go to 15 to 20 games per year, every year at the Dome, watching the team live. And I watched stacks of games on television. Here is how far out of the loop. I think I want to make sure I emphasize how far out of the loop I am. One of the draft picks that was made, I'm going to pull up the name here in a second, but one of the draft picks that was made was a player for the Toronto Blue Jays. It was a pitcher for the Blue Jays. And what happened was, as soon as I saw the name, I was like, I'm not sure who that is. So first of all, that may be an issue. And secondly, when I looked up, the name, it was Chris Bassett. Those of you who hit up the Google machine, go ahead, Brandon.
I drafted him.
Yeah. But I want to make a point here. So Chris Bassett, okay? So first of all, I didn't realize who that was. I saw it was Toronto Blue Jays, and I was like, holy shit. Okay. And then here's the thing, Eric. Here's the best part. Okay.
Yep.
He's on my favorite team.
Right.
I don't know who he is. And he led the league in wins. He led the league. He wasn't just some rando. Like, he literally led the league in wins.
Clearly lost interest in baseball.
Yeah, like, I'm basically like you in hockey. I have no idea what the fuck's going on. Like, I don't know.
Wait, so you're telling me I drafted a good guy?
I know nothing.
I gotta be one thing I have found is that once I hit a certain age where I became older than the players, my interest of following it every day, knowing every player in the league, memorizing statistics, pay attention to the minor league, all that stuff. Back in my day, reading box scores and around the league, because the interwebs didn't exist. I hit a certain age, and I'm like, I'm older than this guy. I'm older than everybody in the league. Now I could
You're
be
older than the owners in some cases.
I was gonna say, yeah.
And now I could be their father. So I really just watch the sport to watch the sport. I don't follow players so much anymore. I don't idolize players. We had a current Bruin in the shop on Saturday. I went and spent time with my family instead of going in and hanging out with him. We had Jacob Lockham in, and from what I hear, he's a great kid and all that. But I don't want to go hang out with the kid that's the same age as my daughter. I'm going to go hang out with my daughter instead. So
well, I mean, we understand you're a Bedard fan now.
Oh, absolutely.
The other players don't exist.
Yeah, they don't even matter.
All about
the important thing though. The important thing though is that, Brandon, this is a new low. The man led the league in the wins. He was on my team and led the league in wins. He was 10th in Cy Young voting. I'm like, oh no. And Brandon, that was a wake-up call for me. I'm like, I need to get myself together. Dude, I need to get myself together. This ain't good. This is bad. This is real bad.
You're older than him now. You're being a fan.
Barely. This guy's 35. He's old.
34. I'm not like 100 years older than him. He's 34. He's a veteran. He's a veteran pitcher.
Yeah, but still, the idea of when we were younger than these players and looked up to them, and they were our heroes.
I don't need to look up to him. I just need to know that he led the league in wins. Yeah, it's a low bar here that we're trying to hit.
When you were 14,
he is 6'5" though, Carlos. You would be.
Yeah, like I got to look up at him. He's 14, a tall dude.
When you were 14, you knew who the starting rotation was for the Blue Jays, right? I mean, play along here. Help me out. Right?
In fairness, Eric, 6 years ago, I knew who the starting rotation was. I've fallen off so hard.
I don't know every intricate detail of the Boston Bruins now. All right. But
as evidenced by your playoff picks, yes, we know.
But when I was 14, I knew more about the Boston Bruins than the Boston Bruins knew about the Boston Bruins. That was like, if I had a free moment,
stalker level, yeah,
that's what I was focused on. Okay. And now it's like, is there a game on tonight? Who are they playing? I have no idea. I have something else to do. So as you get older, things change, and you start realizing that you miss something that happened, or you don't remember it happening, or you didn't care, or you don't even know who's on the damn team anymore. So give it another 10 years, and I promise you it'll be even worse.
Wow, that's actually pretty bad. I was gonna say it's pretty bad at that point. What I was gonna say was I actually think Brandon the biggest problem is honestly I enjoy watching more YouTube random bullshit than anything else. Like if I'm gonna watch something in the evening, I'll probably watch YouTube random bullshit than I will a lot of games or whatever else is on because I have the stream package. I can literally watch all the baseball games. I have the ability to switch them all on. But it's the same thing with hockey. I actually have the streaming hockey package this time around. I barely watched any of those games, so it's one of those things. It's which is indicated I should probably stop paying for that. It would probably be wise to stop paying for that, and I'd save some money.
I have Hulu Plus, so that comes with ESPN Plus and Disney Plus and all that under one umbrella. And with ESPN Plus, I get all these different hockey games from around the league. I get the 7:30 games on the East Coast. I get the 10 p.m. games on the West Coast. I don't have time or the interest anymore to watch that much hockey. But 20 years ago, I would have been up every night until 1:32 in the morning watching hockey on the West Coast. I wish that I could have watched Gretzky play in the Kings and the Oilers. There was no way to do that. It's youth is wasted on the young.
Oh, arrogant philosophical on us. I like what happened there, Brandon.
I wish I had the ability to watch Wayne Gretzky play in Edmonton and LA instead of just.
We're giving Brandon a minute. He needs to make his pick here. This is important.
Yeah, can we get the little buzzer alert? I'm gonna put my pick in.
Yeah, it's like
thing do.
Yeah.
All right. With whatever round that we're on, I'm going to take an ex-Toronto Blue Jay pitcher, who is now a current New York Yankee pitcher. Can you guess who it is?
I have genuinely no idea right now.
No,
as evidenced by the fact that I don't even know who led the league in wins on my own team.
No,
I took Marcus Stroman.
Oh, Stroman. Okay, hold on. Hey, Brandon, just for you.
No, that's
coming up soon.
Yeah, your birthday's over, man.
No,
ready to move on.
We're not. It's not even a week yet.
Okay, look, Eric, for your birthday, we still got this.
Week. I don't think that's nice.
I don't think you hear that. Hear that?
I heard it.
So there you go. That's your birthday. We still got that option. Don't worry. We still got you covered. Anyway, so yes, we've got that going for us. And not yet. I've got one more person, and then right now I'm on deck. I'll be on the clock here in a minute. So anyway, let's move on. So the important thing is that Carlos has completely lost the plot. He has no idea what the fuck's going on in baseball at all anymore. Brandon, like I said, this is a new low for me. This is the lowest of lows here. Like I'm basically bougie Eric low. Like this is low. This is real low.
So I completely understand though where you're coming from. I mean, my baseball scenario is a little bit different because I had the extreme excitement of the Nationals winning the World Series. And then the deflation of the entire thing because all anyone talked about after they won the World Series was how the Houston Astros were cheaters. So, like, we didn't even get to enjoy our off-season World Series. And then, immediately following that, we get the wonderful pandemic. And then we got the implosion of the entire team to where hardly anybody's left there. So, yeah, it's been really, really, really difficult to be a Nationals fan because it went from such highs to crap, like straight crap. It wasn't a first round implosion in the playoffs. It was the top to the bottom. So, with a few debacles mixed in between with the pandemic and everything.
Do you still have that picture? Strasburg or something that was like a high school.
The guy that's trying to retire, but the team doesn't want him to retire because he signed a huge contract because he was World Series MVP and he's pitched 9 games, I think, since the World Series, something like that.
Yeah, I still think Soto. I still think Soto was the MVP of the World Series. I still think Soto was the MVP of the World Series, for the record. I still think
him or Howie Kendrick. There was a few people that could have been, yeah.
Yeah. I would have preferred that. That would be my choice. But yes, I think the lesson here for me is that all of Eric's points are valid, believe it or not, shockingly. However, with that said, I have no problem watching football. Like I actually watch a fair number of football games, and most of them in their entirety, even. So clearly, it's not an issue with it's being able to watch individual games in their entirety. I prioritize YouTube over watching baseball the last 6 years.
Well,
football doesn't take up every day of the week.
Well, that's
it is true. It helps that it's centered on a couple of days.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So that's the thing. Baseball, I think you have like 160 games. All right, they even have 2.
Yeah, I mean, you can still do Sunday Night Baseball if you want. Sunday Night Baseball is like the game of the week. You can focus on a handful.
On some days, they still have double headers where I mean, they don't do it as much anymore, but there's still double headers or makeup games that they have to come up with and have a double. You can watch 2 games in one day. So, which proves that baseball is not a sport because you're not playing 2 hockey games in a day or 2 football games in a day, right? So, that's on a side note. It's because football, and it's, I think we all agree it's gotten watered down because it's so many days now. When it was just Sunday, that was a special day of the week. And people who worked hard all week sat in their living rooms all day and watched football and relaxed during football season. Now they got Monday night. Now, and sometimes they have like 2 games on Monday night. And they got Thursday night. And, then all of a sudden college football ends and you got games on Saturday and Sunday. So now it's 4 days a week. And I think the specialness of and the uniqueness of football is starting to change. And people are starting to get that baseball feeling. Like every time I turn the damn TV on, there's a football game. Football was special because it wasn't on 24/7 where baseball is.
I think it helps that the Thursday games are trash. Like you can watch them if you want to, but the Thursday game tends to be kind of garbage. Amazon paid a crap ton of money for really bad games.
I just want to mention, okay, and this is to anyone listening, watching, whatever. If you want to watch and enjoy baseball, go on YouTube and keep an eye on the Savannah Bananas games.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have been streaming them live. And I'm going to say, Major League Baseball might want to take a little bit of, like, they packed Minute Maid Park in Houston?
Yeah.
They sold that ballpark out within minutes, and the crowd was like,
yeah, but why?
End of the game.
Yeah, but why? What happened at that game?
It was actually, and the kids were loving it.
They brought out Roger Clemens. That is why.
Like 2 nights later, they were at LSU, and again, packed stadium, kids there enjoying. It's actually entertaining. I don't understand all the rules, but it's kind of entertaining. I liked it. So if you want to,
they've learned. I can't remember. There was somebody who wrote up the history of kind of when they decided to switch over to doing what they're doing, basically, and they decided they really are leaning into the point of it. They're leaning into the entertainment side of it. But it's like to your point, they got Roger Clemens. They had a game. I don't remember how long ago it was, but they got a game where they got John Cena in there. Like, so they'll find all kinds of folks that they'll bring in just to do a couple of at-bats and show up and do a
Spaceman Bill Lee, who's 70-something years old and has died twice on the field, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not, and this is not a joke. I believe he has literally died twice on the field at a Savannah Banana game. Still pitches for them at 70-something years old.
They got a guy that plays on stilts.
They will bring the Spaceman out, and he will throw a couple of innings.
So you're saying that I should be drafting Spaceman Lee for 24th?
And let me tell you, of all the people that I have met, there is nobody stranger than that guy. He's not a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. He is out of his mind. Louis Tiant is talking to me in this ear while Spaceman is just bouncing off the walls, right? And he's just like, I've been dealing with this guy for 60-something years, man. He's crazy. And Louis Tiant is a very soft-spoken individual, sits like this, kind of holds court and just talks, he's got that thick accent and he talks very quietly. He doesn't speak unless he has something to say. And he is just looking at me and looking at Spaceman, and he's just like, I've been dealing with this guy for 60-something years. He is just out of his mind. He is on a whole nother planet than the rest of us.
Well, if we need to be grounded in this planet, at the very least, we know that we can look for certain anchors, certain stalwarts to bring us back to reality, like AMG Collectibles, AMGcollectibles.ca, and AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. And we will be back tomorrow. Well, at the time that you're listening to this, if you listen to it as it comes out, hours from now, there will be an episode of the podcast where we will be chatting. I think we'll be talking a couple more products. I think there will be some Pokemons. So, get you all excited. Get all excited. Probably we'll still squeeze in a little bit of Bedard talk because obviously that's still going on. And that'll be happening, stuff in the shop. So I've already started getting a couple of images, but there will be some of the Pokemon because apparently they got themselves quite the Pokemon collection has come in. So I think if Sherry's on, I think she'll be able to give us a little background on that. So you can definitely check that out. Other stuff that came in the shop. Also, we'll talk about feedback from the last episode where we did talk about the Bedard. A lot of folks were buying stuff at AMG Collectibles and pulling some of those Bedards. So we'll touch on some of those things in the next episode for AMG Collectibles. Thank you to AMG Collectibles for supporting the podcast and the channel.
I like how you read my comments on the AMG channel. That's always nice that you read my comments.
Oh, yes. I listen. Absolutely. I'm here for the fans. That's what I do.
Yeah.
It's what I do. But yes. So real quick. So basically we wanted to start off with that. Carlos' secret shame. He's almost as incompetent at baseball at this point as Eric is at hockey. It's terrible. This must be resolved. This must be fixed.
That's pretty
unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Like it's real bad, man. It's real bad. And Brandon, like I'm not joking. This is a wake up call of wake up calls. Like as soon as I found out that you drafted a player on my team that led the league in wins, and I had no idea who the fuck it was. Sure, he's only played on the team for 1 year, but even still, holy shit, what the hell? I was like,
shame on you.
Let's see, how
Am
many
I the
national
baddie?
players have I drafted?
Am I the baddie?
We're gonna walk you through town naked and throw mud and feces at you and just yell shame, shame.
Listen, what you do on your weekend is not everybody's sense of a good time.
You don't know that.
I'm just saying.
Speak for yourself. Hey, speak for yourself.
I'm trying to tell you to speak for yourself. That's the problem. So let's move on here.
I've drafted one national player, and the
Okay.
damn the app that we're using actually says he's a Padre because they never updated it. Like apparently they don't even want him in Washington because they still have him in San Diego. So that's the only national player I have.
There you go. Classic. Love it. But yes, so as we're continuing the rest of the podcast, we're continuing to draft. We're in the 23rd round, and there are 32 rounds. God help us all. So anyway, we'll move on. Two quick other things that are kind of tied together a little bit. So first of all, I've been kind of enjoying. Funny enough, speaking of the other side of the equation, I've been getting back into enjoying the Aussie Rules football season started. So I've speaking of games that I've actually been watching. Apparently, I can watch those. I've been enjoying that a little bit here as the season is starting up for those guys. But the other part of it, unfortunately, is that the PVR hard drive has died. I found out with much sadness that the PVR hard drive has died. I thought it was on its last legs. It was starting to get a little questionable. And very last, funny enough, I was watching the Aussie Rules game, and then I was watching at halftime, and then it continued. It's like click, 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 click. And then the box rebooted, and then all the stuff I had saved was gone.
Oh,
I was like,
Ooh.
great. Okay, then. So it's been a good run with the old PVR, but unfortunately, it is kaputski. Dunzo. Much sadness. Fortunately, and then the good news is that a lot of the games, if I do get them from the local sports network TSN, they do have the replays digitally, so I can watch them on the app basically and through the website. But it's annoying, I kind of like having the PVR and the ability to record the stuff and be able to fast forward through it. So that's unfortunate, and it won't affect me this week. But usually that's where I watch AEW. I'll record that and kind of fast forward through it. That's kind of how I enjoy getting through the commercials and stuff. But I will actually be at the AEW show on Wednesday. So they're over in Toronto. Yes.
Oh, exciting.
That will be fun. So I'll report back my findings on Friday for the Friday live stream. I'll report back my findings. It should be a fun show.
Did you get good seats, like relatively good seats?
So the thing is, they're doing it at Coca-Cola Coliseum, which is the old Rico Coliseum. There is no bad seat. You can literally go, and any seat in the arena is a good seat. You're gonna be in good shape. So we were able to get reasonably priced tickets and get pretty good seats. It's gonna be fun. And one of the key matches is gonna be Canadian Edge taking on also Canadian Christian Cage in an I Quit match. So that should be fun.
This is Christian. This is the Christian versus the Edge.
Christian versus Edge, yes, in an I Quit match.
Aren't they older than me?
No one is older than you.
I think they might be.
I think one of them. I think one of them is older than you, and the other one is not. I can answer that question.
Aren't they best friends, like in real life?
They are. That's what's going to make the I Quit match fun.
Okay.
So Edge is aged the same as you. He is aged the same as you. I think Christian Cage is slightly younger than you.
Okay.
But yes, they're both old. However, they're both still really good at what they're doing. Oh no, they're both 50. There you go. Both 50. They're both your age. Congratulations. Yes. But they're actually both doing very well right now with what they've been doing. Character-wise, Christian is the bad guy in this one. Edge is the good guy in this one. And they've had themselves a nice little feud, which has led to an I Quit match, which they're going to have in Canada.
Are they both Canadians?
Yes.
They both have the Canadians blood?
Yes, the Canadians. Yes.
I did not know they both were. That's funny.
Yes. So it should be a lot of fun. I think it should be a good one because their little feud has actually led very nicely into an I Quit match as kind of their blow off. I think we may see a title change in Canada. So that's and in an I Quit match, that should be a lot of fun. I think both guys are going to pull out all the stops. So I think that's going to be enjoyable.
Just so I'm clear, and I quit is it's not a tap out, it's a submission thing, and they have to say I quit, or is this a retirement match?
Yep. No, it's not. It's an I Quit. You basically pummel the other guy with any plunder that you can find, and then when it's done, you have to force the other person to say I quit. That is the stipulation of the match.
Well, all right.
Yep. So that means they're going to go. I think they'll go for it. I think the two guys are well situated. This is the culmination of a feud they've been going at for a little bit here. So I think this should be a lot of fun. And I've seen already the card is looking pretty strong. And usually the episode of Rampage is a pre-tape, but they're actually going to do it live. So they're going to do 3 hours live on television because the NCAA is coming up on Friday. So TBS needs the time slot on Friday for the NCAAs. So they're actually going to have a 3-hour live television taping that is going to be on the TVs. So we'll be there live to observe it.
You got to bring a sign that says, "Hi, Eric."
Yeah, basically says like, "Fuck you, Eric."
That's not what I said, but okay.
That's basically what you said. I believe, Brandon. I believe that's exactly what he said.
Not what I said.
In some language, it probably translates to simply "hi."
I feel like it's open to interpretation. I was willing to interpret it that way. I believe that's what he meant. I invoked the spirit of Marcel, and that's what came out.
You better watch your mouth when it comes to my best friend in the whole wide world, Marcel.
Mm-hmm. You can all watch the YouTube short where we talk about Eric's association to Marcel. Moving on. So that's a lot of fun. So that'll be a little enjoyable thing coming up here this week. Now, one other thing I wanted to touch on before we get into kind of more of a main topic. It's like I said, it's a little bit more of a mix and match of little mini topics. We did talk about last week. We talked about a couple of different examples of prospecting, and we did talk about that infamous Mac Jones thing. So two things. We talked about the kid that actually sold the Mac Jones, the big Mac Jones 101 for $100,000, which was a great sale and well timed, a good decision in terms of where things sit. And then we also talked about where Mac Jones sits as far as depressed and as far as leaving New England and kind of how that whole thing kind of transpired and how it's unfortunate. But part of our discussion was also talking about the infamous Donruss Mac Jones PSA 10 that sold for $3,000 at the height of madness, the height of the apex of it. And it was unjustifiable, especially given the amount of, cards that were going to be available. Donruss is printed in abundance. It's printed like crazy. So PSA 10s were not going to be rare in any way, shape, or form. And obviously they've dropped to a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what they once were. But the point was, because Mac Jones is right now at such a low ebb, given that he was basically run out of New England, now he's basically the backup in Jacksonville. He has nowhere to go. Effectively, he has nowhere to go but up. That was kind of one of our little mini points there. Was he's down so far that outside of just being out of the league, there's not much more you can do to the guy. So, and we weren't completely convinced that, well, I'll use the analogy. If Sam Darnold can be on his fourth team right now, he's going to get a chance in Minnesota. But he's had a couple of different opportunities after the Jets. We know that the situation in New England was bad. We know that he showed some glimpses of being decent at the beginning. So the question is, what's the truth? Is he as good as a Pro Bowl season, or is he as bad as being run out of town as fast as they can drag him out of there? So I think the truth is likely somewhere in the middle. So the question is, can somebody else exploit that? Because there is room right now. The league is in such a dire straits with quarterbacks. If you don't have one, you're desperate. There's a reason why the Steelers picked up Russell Wilson for a bucket of deflated footballs. There's a reason why. Then they also brought in what's his name from Chicago? Help me.
Justin Fields.
Thank you, Justin Fields. As the backup, aka Plan B, just in case the Russell Wilson thing doesn't work. And they got Russell Wilson for like a bargain basement price, where Denver's basically paying his salary. Like Pittsburgh doesn't have to basically pay him. It's like $1 million they're paying him. So they're basically getting him for free in NFL parlance.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It should tell you how desperate. And by the way, Pittsburgh was a playoff team. So it's like, imagine if you had even competent quarterback play, how bad is the situation where they basically ran Kenny Pickett out? They brought in Russell Wilson for like pennies, and then you've got Justin Fields in the background just in case. Which is to say, you're not sure what your quarterback situation is. Minnesota is not sure what his quarterback situation is. That's why they've got Sam Darnold. Like, it's desperate times. The Kirk Cousins is over in Atlanta. Desmond Ritter's been misplaced, been tossed out. So there's a lot of movement all over the league. So even though Mac Jones is sitting in as the backup in Jacksonville, basically all he needs to do is just kind of rebuild his confidence a little bit. And I sent the guys a little meme that I thought was kind of fun, where even in the presser, Mac Jones looks a lot more relieved to be basically out of the situation he was in. He looks like he's basically like the happiest guy in the world, just having a press conference, like where he just doesn't feel like he has to answer for horror.
Right. And my mom
thought it was very funny.
Yep.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny. And again, like at the end of the day, if your expectations are not too high, I'm not recommending it. Like, here you go. Here's the meme. Yeah. Like, look at the picture at the bottom. It's like I don't think that kid laughed like that hard the entire time he was in New England. Like, it was crazy.
He wasn't allowed to. That's against the company policy.
So we'll see. It's one of those things. Like, I'm not going to wager that anything is going to happen too crazy. However, and this is kind of what was leading to a point that I wanted to make. If you're going to do a lot of prospecting, and again, this is not a recommendation for me. This is something I'm doing. I'm simply going to share with you what I have done. I sat there and my thought process was, okay, so he's gone down so far. And I went out this past week and said, okay, well, what can I find? What can I pick up that is low enough that I can take a flyer? Because if you're going to take a flyer and just try and see what happens, then you may as well. So I'll share one here. I'll share two different ones, but I'll start off with this one and then we'll talk about the other one. And then also we'll have a little trivia game here in a second. So this is from Ye Old Comsey, but I picked this up on Comsey. And this is the 2021 Donruss. So for folks to listen to the audio version, 2021 Donruss, Mac Jones. This is the premium press proof, kind of a goldenish kind of color, but in a PSA 10. This is the press proof parallel version, one of the parallel versions of the infamous $3,000 Mac Jones that we were talking about. Well, I picked this one up already in a PSA 10, already in the holder for the princely sum of $24. Less than 1%.
Wasn't that one from the box set, I believe?
I believe it was. Yeah, because I think that's where they come up with the premium. I think that's where that premium portion comes in. But for me, really what it came down to, Brandon, is I'm just looking at it. This is a variant of it already in the PSA 10, less than 1% of the absolute apex of that other card. And like just the cost of grading, $24. Like we're basically the cost of grading effectively. So at that point, you're effectively getting the card for free. Now, what's the worst that happens? I lose $24. It's not a big deal. So I was like, okay, let me grab that. Let me pick it up and set it aside. And actually one sold on eBay for a little bit more than that this past week as well. So I can throw that out to you. But the second one I thought was a little bit interesting as well. So again, I'll share with you the card. If you check out the visual, you'll be able to see it. But then also I went and looked up a comp from 2022. So we'll have a little bit of fun with this one. So this card here is from 2021 Panini 1. So this is a Mac Jones card as well. And I'll share this. And I picked this up at the last PWCC auction this past weekend. So it's recent. So here it is. It is in a PSA 8. It is kind of a autographed patch kind of thing. Obviously, it is Panini. So these are like, not game worn event, whatever. It's for the aesthetic more than anything else, but it is an autograph on there. And this is the number to 49. So it is a patch autograph. So dual patch auto, PSA 8 of Mac Jones. All right. So that one I picked up with the juice, with the buyer's premium for $37, all in total. So a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. However, I can share with you. And what I'll do is I'll share from Terapeak, because again, Terapeak is a good resource for a lot of these things. The card I'm going to show you now is the same card. Not the same serial number, but it is the same card from the same type, because there's a couple different versions. So this one here, number to 49, it is a patch, and the patch is actually very similar to the other one I just showed you. So very similar to it. Also numbered to 49. It is Mac Jones, the exact same year, everything else. It's not graded. It's inside a little one touch, but it is virtually the same card. This one was sold in May of 2022. So quick fun game. Brandon, how much did this card sell for in May of 2022?
Well, I'm pretty sure I can see the number right there. But considering I know how much those used to be, and I believe it was Panini one that we sent in to be graded the NFL Shield 101 version. I don't know, between $1,000 and $2,000, they were expensive.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You can see it on the screen, but there's a couple that sold in May 2022. So like you've got a couple of options.
I don't know
you could
exactly
try to pick
which one it is, but
yeah, that's the reason why I was okay with it still being there, because I was like, no, you can still say, when I said May 2022, everything on the screen is May 2022. You got to squint a little bit and really, really look carefully if you want to see it. You can see it, but you have to look a little bit. So Eric, what say you?
Which one it is?
What say you?
My first instinct, because I can't see any of that other stuff. I don't have I guess my eyes aren't as good as Brandon, but I would say 2000.
All right. So this one here was the one that sold on May the 3rd. 21 bids, $960 plus shipping. So just shy of $1,000. So not too bad relative to some of these. Some of these other ones, there was this one here. This one sold for $2,000. It is also numbered to 49. It is also a patch autograph, but it's a slightly different version of it. So there are a couple of variants if you want to kind of separate out.
They make several different ones.
Yeah. So you got to take a look. So again, serial numbering the same, but you got to look. There's a couple different versions. So this other one, again, same thing, was 1,625. So 1,625. And then, like I said, the example that I gave you from May the 3rd, 2022 was $960. That was less than 2 years ago. We're not even at 2 years ago. And I just purchased one for $37.
Yeah, he felt like a stone. And I'll say, I've said it 100 times. I'll say it one more time. And I'll say it 100 times after this, is that he got screwed. He had no offensive line. He had no one to throw it to. And he had 3 different offensive coordinators in 3 years of being here. And the second one he had was Matt Patricia, who is the former defensive coordinator. This kid got screwed. And I listened to sports radio around here, and the Mac Jones haters who just says this guy sucks and he was a cancer in the locker room and he just sucked and glad he's gone. It's like, did you not watch the games? Did you not see what this poor kid went through his second and third year here? I mean, it was just horrible. And I think that I don't think he'll be in Jacksonville very long. I think as soon as another team needs a quarterback, they'll trade draft picks for him. And he'll be off and running somewhere else.
Yeah, that's always a possibility. So now I want to be clear. I shared that with you because it's kind of a fun juxtaposition between what the old price was and what the new price is. But also caveat, I am taking a flyer. Now, the reality is between those two cards, I'm out like $60. So in the grand scheme of things, in sports card parlance, as far as taking a flyer, it's not exactly a high risk proposition for me. So I'm going in understanding, hey, it's very possible. Maybe his confidence is shot. Maybe he's done and he can't find his way, and he just becomes either a career journeyman backup or he's out of the league in a couple of years, and that's the end of that. Or there's a possibility that somebody figures it out. They put a couple pieces together and he becomes at least serviceable. And all of a sudden, hey, it would still have more value, even if he just became a viable starter for somebody.
Think of it this way. 2021 was his rookie year. Mm-hmm. And wax prices were very, very pricey then. Imagine if you bought the card in 2021 or bought the box and got excited to hit the card in 2021. You showed a comp of 960 there in 2022. Mm-hmm. Think about being the person that was chasing him then instead of being the guy chasing him now. Even if it's just for fun and for shits and giggles, like you said, you got 2 nice copies of his cards for $60. Like Panini 1 was probably in 2021, I would guess $1,200 to $1,600 a box. And he would have been the guy that you would have been chasing, and you just scooped one up for, what did you say, $34?
It was 37 with the juice, with the 20% juice.
So, I mean, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah. But that's what I say. Like for me, it's look, if you're going to randomly throw money at, like, I'm watching people prospect and spend thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. Look, we chronicled last week a person who had a $30,000. So it was $30,000 on Mac Jones cards. I'm talking about $60. So, like, in scales, like, and for me, it's just like, hey, worst case scenario, it's a fun story. It's a nice card and I can have some fun with it. And like, whatever, it's not I can throw it in a box and forget about it. But look, if Joe Flacco can come off a couch, right situation, right time, right place, they thought he was dead. They thought he was dead in the water. There's a reason the man was sitting on a couch. They thought he was done. He found the right place where they just needed somebody who could throw. Well, he went in, he goes, yeah, I can throw. Okay, great. Good enough. Give it a shot. See what happens. And I used the Sam Darnold comp. Sam Darnold's like on his 4th team right now. Baker was like on his 4th team right now, give or take. So, and Baker has at least solidified himself. Now he's got a chance to start. And I believe Sam Darnold is the starter right now in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check that, but I believe that is correct. The point is, so you've got that. And stuff happens, man. This league right now is weird. If you got a quarterback, you're comfortable. If you don't, right now, everybody's shuffling these quarterbacks in the deck chairs, and they're hoping the next draft gives them some options. And everybody who doesn't have a quarterback right now is looking for one. And they're trying all kinds of weird games to find somebody. That's what's going on with a lot of these teams.
Yeah. And I mean, you've never been shy to buy quarterbacks, You've got several examples of them. I myself have never understood the significant levels of dollars that are thrown at quarterbacks in football, especially ultra modern. Like, you can go back and look at the history of the drafts and these top draft picks and the success rates of the majority of them out there, and people will still every year throw money at the next new guy thinking that he's going to be the next great quarterback in the league. And it very rarely pans out like that. I personally, just from my, football, when I played and stuff, I've always liked wide receivers. And I've always felt that a quarterback is only as good as the guys he's throwing the ball to, because it doesn't matter how damn good your arm is, doesn't matter how accurate you are. If the guy on the other end of the pass can't catch the damn ball, you're not going to be any good. So I've always felt they're just as important, if not more important, than the quarterback themselves. But that's also biased from the position I played when I played. So
I think that's fair. The only counter that I would have though is you got to think about. So go back to the last however many years of Super Bowl winners. Go back and take a look how many of those teams actually had like a number one wide receiver in the league, and go back and see how far back you got to go before you find somebody who had the top wide receiver.
The game today is a lot different too, because let's be honest, and nothing against Patrick Mahomes, but the majority of his passes are very short in distance.
Yeah. But that's a stylistic choice. That's an offensive stylistic choice, though. The point is that necessarily having a game-breaking wide receiver is a luxury, but it's not even necessary. The reason why I said specifically what I just said is you have to go back almost to Jerry Rice, basically, to go look at the top tippy top wide receiver at the top of their game at the same time to find the last time.
That's where I look at wide receivers a bit differently than a lot of people, because you mentioned Tom Brady didn't have anybody. Tom Brady had several good wide receivers, but people put premier top tier wide receiver. Like, look at the league today. You have Justin Jefferson.
We had Randy Moss.
But Brandon, you just asked a moment ago why such an emphasis is put on the top end quarterback prospects and such. What you just said, I agree with 100%. The point though is that for that to be true, that means that I don't need to care who the best wide receivers are. For a team to win, I just need enough good wide receivers who can make the catches when I need them to. Though it's more important for me to have a complement of good wide receivers who will make the catches, as opposed to an elite wide receiver.
Right, and people will know, like Eric mentioned, Randy Moss. They'll think Tom Brady, oh, he had Randy Moss. I think two of the best wide receivers, and obviously he had Gronk, and Gronk was great. But two of the best wide receivers that Brady ever had was Julian Edelman and Wes Welker.
Oh, God, yeah.
And people wouldn't put them anywhere near a plateau as Randy Moss, because, as you said, Moss was a game breaker. He was a deep threat, dominant physical force. But you had Edelman and Welker were those grinded out, possession type guys. The Ravens would have never won the Super Bowl that year with Flacco if it wasn't for Anquan Bolden, But he was overshadowed because he was on a team for a long time with Larry Fitzgerald, who, So it's one of those things. I guess there's different styles really of wide receivers, and people do go after the flashy deep ball guy, the guy that's going to be putting up, the big bombs and mega yardage each year and everything else. So I get that.
But that's the thing. Too. Exactly. Any category, any position, there are a lot of really good players who can comprise and be part of a winning team. But the problem is when you're talking about, if you're talking about collecting, a lot of people will fixate on the game breakers. They're fixating on the guys who can make big plays that can change the outcome of games. The problem is in reality, in real life, if you want to win, you need those other guys. So good example that I'll give you. When the Packers last won the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 45, one of the most important critical guys, Donald Driver. He was he was a guy who was there. He was a consistent. So you'd have this home run hitter, but if worse comes to worse and things break down, there's Donald Driver. So you had the guy who could make the play, and you had a couple of those guys, and you had some guys that could make those plays.
I'm trying to remember. There was another guy you guys had. I want to say his name was Robert something.
You think Robert Tunyon?
I can't remember what it. I thought his name was Robert, but I could be wrong. I remember y'all having another gritty type wide receiver.
Yeah, well, I'll be able to tell you. So, but the point is, for that specific one, I'm using an example again. I'm using an example of a Super Bowl team, and the reason I'm specifically fixating on that, you got Jennings. Jennings was one of the guys that they had that year.
Greg Jennings, yeah.
Greg Jennings, yep.
Okay.
So the point is, you've got a lot of excellent players, but Greg Jennings led the team in receiving yards. Donald Driver was your solid guy. Jordy Nelson was still early in his development, but he became a home run guy. The thing is, so he would have the flashy plays, but you needed a complement. But Greg Jennings was far and away the leader in receiving yards, far and away. But it's like 1,200 yards receiving, and the next closest guy is like under 700. So there's a big gap. So you don't have all these 1,000-yard receivers and everything, but the offense worked. And that's kind of how you have to play these things. But then you go look at Randy Moss's, you go look at, Antonio Brown before he lost his mind. You go look at Megatron, you go look at some of these other great players, and you see them make these amazing plays, have these ridiculous seasons. But then does the team win?
Not always.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been a while since, again, that's why I use Jerry Rice as an example. It's been a while since you got a guy of that caliber where the team was also good and then they won. It's been a while since, because a lot of times these great wide receivers might have a great quarterback even. Maybe they got a great tandem, but then, they don't really win. And it's not it's not necessarily the best wide receiver quarterback combo that wins. It's whoever has the most varied weapons. That's why New England had Gronk, and they had all these guys. And Edelman won. Do you know Edelman won a Super Bowl MVP in the worst Super Bowl ever played? Literally the most trash Super Bowl of all time. And better living through chemistry. He took his vitamins and said his prayers, brother.
He did.
That very season.
He did.
Yeah. He was suspended for PEDs that season. That very season. Just throw it out there. Just thought I would mention that.
He was.
Yeah. The bottom line is, like I said, just circling back around to the point is, if you're going to throw a flyer, by all means, but at the same time, just be aware of what the risk factors are. I'm doing it most, for entertainment value only, not investment advice. Really not investment advice, because it might very well be a waste of money. But the good news is, if it is, it's not a waste of a lot of money. There's a lot of people who spend a lot more money to take their risk and get less. Best of luck to you. Yeah. And we saw that as well during the Bedard thing. We had that conversation, because I think in the Discord we saw somebody, I don't know if it was in the Discord or somewhere else that I saw, somebody opened like 20 tins and whatever and didn't get a Bedard. Like I saw, no, you know what? It was on Sports Car Radio. They showed a post, and somebody went in and opened like 20 tins and whatever and spent like $3 or $4 grand and didn't get a Bedard. I'm like, you could have just bought one.
Wow.
Yep.
You just bought one. You could have bought one at full price and still save money.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
A couple of guys at the shop decided to go Bedard hunting, and I sat and watched, and they opened up the first 10 or whatever it was, and nope. All right, then they started messing with each other and daring each other. Oh, and there goes another. They went through all these blasters and tins, almost
Why?
like I don't know. They went through hundreds of dollars of merchandise.
Did you guys not have hobby boxes?
We were saving those for the customers.
Oh, so it was employees opening them.
These are employees that were going Bedard hunting, and they might as well have just bought a hobby box with the money they ended up spending anyway. And the only Bedard they got is one of those masterpiece ones that are ridiculous. That's the only Bedard they got, was that ridiculous masterpiece one.
I found it hilarious, and it goes to show what hype does within the hobby. And I know we've talked about this mess, and it still doesn't make a ton of sense. But so I stopped. There's a Walmart that isn't here in the town I live in, but I don't know, like 15, 20 minutes away from here. And it's on the way to where the card shop is that I go to. And I stopped in there on the way home. Can't remember what day it was last week. I think it was Thursday. But anyway, I know that store, because it's in a rural area, like there's hardly any houses or anything out there. They always had a good selection of wax. Even through the pandemic, there was normally a good selection.
Mm-hmm.
I go in there, and I'm not exaggerating when I describe this. So they have a full-length row of shelving that's for cards. Pokemon, the TCG stuff, the Lorcanas, all that stuff, completely filled. Completely full. Everything you want. Basketball, you got the mosaics, the selects, the optics, megas, everything filled. Football, filled. Baseball, all the 2024 Series 1 you wanted, everything filled. Hockey, empty. And I was like, are you shitting me right now? The sport that always sat on the shelf and nobody wanted because it was just as well, you might as well buy the hobby box because then you got the chance for the parallels, unless you only wanted to rip like one blaster and be cheap or whatever. It always sat on the shelf. And now it's the only thing emptied. And I was like, do people not realize you can't hit that bounty card?
Yeah.
Or like, what the hell are they doing? But yeah, I had a picture of it. I think I deleted it, but I sent it to the wife because she, I knew that if they had some, I would have bought it and she would have been happy. And I sent it to her just so she could see I wasn't making it up. The entire rack filled of anything you could have wanted. Hockey, empty. So,
Wow.
It's crazy times.
Hey man, the mania's going, buddy. The mania's going. It's running wild. We talked about it. Listen, we did the Bedard-mania is running wild joke already. And that's a fact. Like the reality is, but look, that's why I want to kind of bring the two topics together, and let's have a moment here. We'll talk about the Bedard thing briefly because I actually will look up some updated comps and some recent sales, so I can actually bring that into conversation.
I have not looked. I'm gonna guess. Has it leveled down to around 375 on like more consistently? Because I know there was some in like the 350, but it would be like one here, one there, and
so I'm gonna answer that question.
consistent?
I'll give you the answer, but I want you to bear in mind one thing: a lot of sales. There's still some folks using buy it now best offers, which obviously helps keep it to a certain level. But I'll talk to you about what the new kind of established level right now, and it's moving in the direction that we expected. But I'll share here briefly. But I want to tie the two topics together. So y'all saw how like a moment ago I just talked about like I am taking a risk. I understand what the risk is, but I'm also not spending a lot of money.
Right.
Like in the example of what I just did, I bought a PSA 10 and I bought an autograph patch from a high-end product from a few years ago of a guy who once was a prospect who now is in the garbage can and everybody assumes he's dead. And maybe he is. But worst case scenario, the price I paid for those two cards is less than half a blaster box. Or like a tin. Just to be clear, just so we're all on the same page, okay? So risk levels, if you're gonna take a flyer and it may not work out for you, keep the price down. That's usually the way that I would go. So right now, I can tell you that the Young Gun, so we're talking raw copy, and I'm just looking at Terapeak here. So the last couple, there have been a couple that sold today. A couple of them are using the fixed price buy now best offer, and the last one that sold was $489. The one before that was $499. So these are today, March 18th sales as we're recording this. And I've got a few others in the low 500s. So I want to say high fours, low fives is kind of where some of them are settling in. Now, of course, there are going to be other sales in between. They're going to shift around. There are going to be some auctions. I do see a one from earlier today that was an auction, and the auction sold for $384. So there's high threes. But I'm also looking at the card, and I can see some chipping on the card. Okay. So you got to factor in the condition as well. So these are all raw copies. Every one that I'm discussing is a raw copy. So a few of the buy it nows are going for high fours, low fives. The copy that I saw going auction today was kind of one that has a little chipping, which is a case with full bleed photo that can happen. So condition still does matter. However, maybe we can get some wax or, get some, we get some spackle or something like Brandon, we could get some spackle or we could get like, I heard there's a guy.
Help it out, man. It's all good. Like that's what you're supposed to do. See,
that's right.
Here's the new trend for the hobby. I'm just throwing it out there. Like Panini, Upper Deck, Hell Fanatics. Y'all need to put some like spikes on the assembly line now. Just like make some kind of dull, some kind of sharp. Throw some glue on the line, and let's make this really challenging because we got the product to get it right now, right? So we need something to
Mhm.
practice on. So we need y'all to up your game so we can up our game so we can make sure that this all gets legitimized, right? Because we got to get them 10s. So there you go. Calling out Panini Upper Deck and Fanatics. We need worse quality, please.
I think that they can help you with that.
Yeah, well,
I believe
they
so.
gotta up their game. It's too easy right now. You know, we need to up the game.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Now
definitely
the key though with that price point though, the reason why I want to make sure I gave out the price is that if you remember, early ones over 1,000, then creep below 1,000, then they settled in at 700 ish. They're right around 700 ish. Now we're talking 400 or 500 ish. We're moving into that category, so we're shifting. We're downshifting again.
Has it pushed the Series 1 down with it? That's something I'm curious because that was sitting right around 5. I wonder if it's pushed that down.
You're talking about the draft card,
Yeah, because it was
the
around
dra-
500.
well,
I'm
the draft
wondering
card I
if
thought was
it,
doing the draft card. I think honestly probably is probably pretty stable. I'll see if I can find it. So you
because
have to give me a
that'll
minute to
be
look.
interesting if the Young Gun dips below the draft card.
Oh, the Young Gun's already below the draft card. Yeah, the last draft card, fixed price, Easter egg one that's just raw, 650, and that was yesterday.
So
So
those
the
are
Young Gun is
actually
already
going
below the
the
draft card.
opposite direction.
The draft card. So if you remember, a week or two ago, the draft card is not rare, but it
Right.
is less plentiful than the Young Gun. The Young Gun will be available in more higher numbers. So if you are a person who is going to spend an equivalent amount for either or, I would rather have the draft card because it is simply
Right.
less available. Even though neither is rare. Emphasis, neither is rare. Just so we're all on the same page. And by the way, since I practice what I preach and we talked about it, I talked about how I sold that Opeachy one. Well, the person on the other end of the transaction got their card, left positive feedback. They were happy. Great. Good. I'm glad they enjoy their card. For me, it was like I pulled the card, we put it up on eBay, we sell the damn thing. Get it out of here.
move it.
And if they're happy, hey, I'm happy too. That's great. Then everybody wins. But when it came down to it, like that is a depreciating asset that is depreciating rapidly as more come on the market. And by the way, it is not a reflection on the player. I want to make sure I emphasize this. It is not a reflection of the player. It's not a. If matter of fact, he's playing pretty well right now.
Yes,
He had a multi-point night the other night. He's leading all rookies in points and goals. Like he's doing very well, and he should. And more than likely, he will seal up the Calder. The reality, though, is that right now Chicago's not going anywhere fast. They're going to need some more help, and they're going to need to build that team up. There's still some work to do to make that team viable. He isn't surrounded by a ton of talent. I could be mistaken, but I believe he's still leading the team in points, which includes veterans, which tells you how poor the Chicago Blackhawks are. So the reality is they're not a good franchise right now, but if they rebuild and do what they need to do, then they get better and he'll have more opportunities, and he's playing well enough, given that he's literally an 18-year-old kid. So like good on him.
Exactly.
So I think in the long run right now, if you like his game, and I've seen Eric, I will tell you, I watched some highlights.
Yep.
There are moments where the kid stick handles extremely well. Like you can see the skill. The skill is clearly there. And he's doing it against NHL talent. So it's not like he's doing it against some ham and eggers. He's out there against NHL players demonstrating skill. So good for him. So it's one of those things where like he could very well be what you're hoping he is, but right now the team sucks and it's going to reflect in what's going on so that he's going to have a long off season. And during that long off season, if you really want this card so damn badly, you're going to have a chance. There's plenty of time. There's an opportunity. There's a window here where you can get the damn card. There is. You can get a lot cheaper than buying thousands of dollars worth of boxes.
Yeah.
What month do we see the 101 pulled?
Well, I'll let you know when I pull it.
Yeah.
Hashtag rigged.
Has Backyard Breaks gotten their truckload yet? Or
I'm trying. Well, Eric, I'm trying to get my.
I'm honestly surprised with the amount of product that's been opened that it hasn't been pulled. Like I expected it way sooner. Anyway.
Brandon, I happen to know for a fact over at Upper Deck HQ they've got the box and it literally a sticky note that says for Carlos. So when I get my box, I'll roll it in here, and I'll do it at the expo for y'all.
Well, see,
we'll do it on camera, and I'll slow roll that shit just for you.
Yeah. See, I think it says for Carlos to be opened at Expo Live. That's
literally what I just said. Yeah, that's literally what I just said. Yeah, 100%. If you're gonna do, Eric, if you're gonna hashtag rig it, you do that shit live at the expo.
Yeah.
That's the time. That's the play. And then me and Heartland go down to Buffalo. David Adams, I believe you have a large novelty check for me.
Yes.
I would like the golf check.
Yes. Absolutely.
Got to do the large novelty check, man. More hashtag content, Eric. More hashtag content. Come on.
Are we still, after you hit the $1 million card, are we still doing content or are you disappearing?
Eric,
the like button just goes up.
Eric, I'm going to be even more insufferable than I was before for my new studio. I do the trolling for the love of the game.
Yeah, I know.
I don't do it for the fame. I don't do it for the money. I do it for the love of the game.
I know.
But I'll take the money too. But to be clear, I'll take the money too.
Yes.
Are we going to get a Cards HQ Toronto?
God, no. We already had Legends of the Game, man. Legends of the Game was way better than Cards HQ could ever hope to be. Legends of the Game was the shit. Back in the day, it was shit. It was good.
Yeah.
You could have, I didn't mean you had to go out and get like an actual shop. I mean, just like a neon light to hang outside the condo. I mean,
well, what I'm going to do, so what I might do, Brandon, is I might do like a lemonade stand and I'll like hire a guy to stand there and I'll just put the logo on there.
There you go.
That works.
Yeah. It'll just leave him out there and just be like, what are you doing? It's like, I got some Bedard Young Guns. Got a whole stack of them.
In the value box.
A whole stack of them. Let me tell you, they're still printing them to this very day. Allegedly,
yeah.
Hey, listen, all I'm saying is what I've said all along. I believe that they printed a fairly decent amount of them. And I think there will be plenty of people who have plenty of opportunities to pull a number of them. And then more will go on the marketplace. What we're waiting on, the new number that we're really all waiting on, is how many 10s start coming out. They've started, but it's slow at first because some people are really eager and they'll pay the premium to get it done, to get the first couple. If you really get the first couple, then it's to your biggest benefit.
Yep.
But after the first couple, it's like, no, then you may as well pay the normal service. And you'll be able to get coverage like under 1,000. If you get a 10, obviously, then you'll get upcharged. But
has the 10 sold yet? Do we know?
Yes, there's been a couple that have sold.
I know the highest raw I saw. Maybe you guys saw something different, but the highest raw was 1,200 something that I saw. But I don't know what a 10 has gone for yet.
I will tell you. So I want to see if, okay, so that's one version of it. I want to make sure I get you the regular Young Gun and not the other stuff.
Right,
okay, so here we go. Young Gun. So this was as 4 days ago, this post from Hockey Card Gun Show. So we'll give them their credit for this one. So Young Gun, PSA 10 sold on March the 13th, $5,186 USD was the sale on March the 13th.
Okay. And it looks like the previous high was
4,900.
Yeah. So
So right around 5K, give or take 5K.
Yeah.
Now that will become less. That will become less as more flood the market because at the moment that sold, the pop was 45. Last I heard, the pop was somewhere in the 80s. I'm sure it'll get past 100 in short order, past 200, past 300, past 400.
5,000.
Well, remember, I did the thing with Connor McDavid, right? I did the Connor McDavid one for you. I gave you PSA 10, PSA 9, and BGS 9.5. I gave you those three. Well, those three for McDavid are over 12,000. And I expect they printed more. They printed more for this series. So it's not like I have to work that hard to come up with math, Eric. Like it stands to reason that if they print more, and we should get more 10s as we come through and more 10s come the pipeline, it wouldn't shock me if we're in the thousands and thousands and thousands of 10s.
Yeah.
So there'll be plenty. So my point was earlier, like this is the only piece of advice I've given to this entire thing is not buy Mac Jones. Don't do that. Like, I'm not suggesting that to you, and I'm not telling you to buy Bedard either. The only piece of advice I've given is that if you're talking about the young gun and you genuinely would like one, you will have the opportunity in the next couple of months. I would sit on my hands and wait for an opportunity where you find a price point that you're pretty happy with. Honestly, once it falls below the price of a hobby box currently, you'll probably be okay. You'll probably be reasonably happy with it, somewhere in the high 2s, low 3s. And it may go down below that, but if he plays well down the road, it'll come back up. Because it's the same thing happened with McDavid.
Yeah.
Look, we've literally done this already. Now, again, McDavid has done already a number of things. So you're going to have to then do those things. But the arc is starts high, comes down. Then if you start doing stuff, comes back up.
And maybe this could be a quick discussion too. I think you'll see a lot of PSA 10s in Bedard's because the way PSA structures their payments, if they give you a PSA 10 Bedard right now, don't they get to give you the PSA tax even higher? So it's in their best interest to make more. Whereas, say, CGC has a flat rate. If I'm saying all this correctly, no matter what grade they give you, a 1 or a 10, the price is the same. So they don't have any extra incentive to move their numbers around. Where PSA is like, well, this is the hottest card going. We're going to get flooded with them. The more 10s that we put out, the grade, the more we get to PSA tax people and make more money during this, Bedard storm. So I think PSA 10s are full of crap right now, the way my logic goes. But whereas a CGC, I think would actually be a much more fairer grade if you're trying to purchase something, because
CGC actually charges by value.
Yeah, they do have a level.
Well, that's why I said
even SGC has it, but it's got to be pretty high.
No, ultra modern, there's no upcharge.
Oh, they got rid of the ultra modern is the one where they don't bother with it. It's the old. It's the
ultra modern, there's no upcharge.
Yeah, right. It's the vintage where they got the tiers.
SGC, it's a flat fee on ultra modern. CGC does do value.
Okay.
So I would, and that's just another issue I have with grading companies.
Or you could send it to Beckett.
No, I
go for the black label. Go for the black label.
Also, by the way, since we were talking about the numbers, so this was the red outburst that came out. So this was confirmed on Terry Peak, 17,901. So that's the red outburst out of 25, and that's the one that sold off of it.
I wonder what that's going to grade. Well, if Brad grades it, he'll just give it an 11.
So
I think there'll be more generosity on the AMG one. I'm just saying this one has a little edge chipping.
Oh, this isn't the AMG one?
No. So this one is number 9 of 25. So it's hard to tell, but this one's number 9 of 25. Okay. And then the one that was at AMG was 16 of 25.
Okay.
So I don't normally do the investing advice and all that stuff.
Ooh, hashtag invest.
Since I appreciate the people who watch/listen to the podcast, those that take the time to comment down in the comment section, hit the like button, all that, I will help you guys out. And I know it's a crazy time, and it's boosted hockey and put it on the map and everything else. And I want to see you all spend your hobby dollars wisely. So that $17,000, it's a pretty card. It's nice red, kind of blends in with the jersey though a little bit. And I was thinking a better investment. PSA 10, already graded, slabbed, everything, good to go. You could buy 155 Jason Robertson 2020 Upper Deck Young Guns in PSA 10. and I think you would have a way, way, way better return on your investment. Just saying. 155 of them.
So that's what your plan is. How
I'm just trying to help the people
many
out.
have you purchased so far? I mean, you like
What's
around
that?
80? How many have you purchased so far? You're around 80, 85? You got another
Oh, no.
coming? What?
No, I only have one.
Oh,
I'm not an investor. I'm not an investor. I
Oh.
was helping the
So
people.
you're helping the people, but
okay. Very kind.
but basically you're helping the people, but you would not practice what you preach, is what you're saying.
I had to pay my tax bill. I don't have the
see.
$17,000. The tax man wanted his
I
thousands of dollars.
I see.
So
I see. Interesting. I see. So I just want to showcase there on the screen, Jason Robertson, 23 goals and 68 points in 69 games. So he is not a point a game player.
But he will be in the
22.
playoffs. Connor Bedard won't. Just making sure that's known.
Well, based on last year's playoffs, Jason Robertson was barely there, and he was there.
But he was there.
He was there. Well,
he was there longer than
like
the Boston Bruins.
Oh, Jesus.
That part is true, but I'll just say,
And Toronto Maple Leafs.
If he repeats that performance from this past playoff, in this playoff, how many did you say you could get? How many tens?
It's about 155 of them for the 17,000.
Yeah. So if he repeats this playoff performance, Eric, you'll be able to get 1,500 of them for that price point, because the price will just keep dropping.
The funny thing is, though, is he's like leading the team, I'm pretty sure, in points. So you're saying it as a bad thing, a playoff team, and he's leading them. Come on.
I'm gonna buy you that card that I sent you today, because you deserve it, and I mean that. You deserve it.
I am just trying to help the people.
I question the sincerity of your helping the people, Eric. How do you feel about his helping the people? Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I got some questions. Here's the Eric. You know what the real problem is. So let me share one more Instagram image here. I'll share one more.
Okay.
So since he wanted to bring up Jason Robertson, since he wanted to bring him up, so we're talking about leading the team and doing all that.
Sure.
Once upon a time there was another person who led the Dallas Stars team in points.
Yes.
It was a memorable season back then. Ye old days of 2014, 2015. Back in those days, you see.
Yes.
Back then.
Yes.
The Renaissance, Jamie Benn,
yes,
led all of the hockeys. He didn't just lead the team. He led all of the hockeys. And right now, Jason Robertson's not even on pace to match that. And right now, I think I can get, so using Brandon's mathematical formula, I think I can get 47,000 Jamie Benns.
87 points. That just blows me away. How in the world do you lead the league with 87 points?
It was the way that season worked out, man. I don't know what to say.
Hey,
listen,
it's not the Gretzky era. We've all said he was overrated.
You play in the season that you play in, Eric. That's how this works. Everybody played under the same conditions. Everybody played under the same rules. So it's legit.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. He is an Art Ross Trophy winner. God bless him.
And nobody can take that away from him. That is a fact. But not the most impressive. So that example was used talking about it. So this was from 4 days ago. So this is the bar down.
I've told y'all all along, Robertson is prepping for the playoffs. I've said it all season. We're almost there. It's almost time. It's almost go time. That's all I'm saying. I'm just trying to help the people out.
Eric, I think we need to do like a playoff. I think we need to do like a playoff preview. Eric, I think we need to do like a playoff preview episode when we get there. And when we get there, as part of the playoff preview, we got to get Brandon to commit on the number of points for Jason Robertson in this playoff. Over under number of chocolate sticks you consume during said playoff. I got you on the chocolate sticks.
Just sweep. I mean, what if they just sweep?
Then he would get another round, so he still gets more games, one way or the other.
Yeah, but like games, if it goes 7 games, he's gonna have more points than if they just sweep. That's difficult to gauge in the playoffs. Talking playoffs?
Playoffs?
I am talking playoffs. Like I said, hey, Eric, we might be talking. It's like, so guys, I think we can buy some Jason Robinson. What for $150? $150.
No, never $150.
Terribleness. Terrible.
Yeah, I am definitely. I have decided I am getting that card for you today that I sent out. You need to have that in your collection, and you deserve it. And I just again want to make sure I let you know that I think you deserve that card in your collection. I don't know if Carlos wants to bring that up at all, but
that was in the text message thread.
Yeah, you deserve this card.
I said it was fancy.
You did say it was fancy, and it is going to come your way.
Oh, okay. I remember the one you're talking about.
I am going into work tomorrow. I'm digging it out of the trash, and I am sending it to you.
You didn't put that in the trash. You even put it in a penny sleeve. Don't lie. I seen the penny sleeve on it. You cared
actually,
for that card.
So Brandon,
you knew the value and worth.
Brandon, actually, since he brings up, it's funny he brings up trash. I got a quick topic that we can finalize and we can finish up on. But I'll show the card. I'll pull one up from old eBay here for us. So I'll pull up an image of said card. It's Eric's favorite card. It's from his favorite subset. Like, I don't understand. He loves the Sensor set. It's literally his favorite. It's the UD portrait.
I am right there.
Like, looking like the Mandalorian.
Yeah, that is coming your way. I'm digging that out of the trash. It is coming.
Looks straight up like Mando right there.
Yep.
The best part is that he's got a necklace. The best part, he's got a necklace with the logo there, but the logo is out of alignment. Like the logo is in flight or something.
They didn't do the best there, but
that is just horrible. But you're getting it. I'm digging it out tomorrow.
It's fancy.
It is, and it's yours.
Maybe I can meet him one day and get him to sign it.
Hey,
yeah.
Good luck with that. I hope that works out for you.
Hey, man, it's pretty good. I don't know. It'd be pretty great. So we'll finalize on this thought, and I'll include a link to a few of these in the description here for you. But this one I definitely will. So this one is from kind of YouTube channel Flippin' Steve. You know where I'm going with this one, Brandon. We got Flippin' Steve, and we got one of his recent videos. And this one was one where he cracked open a Kyler Murray SGC 9.5. And you mentioned, obviously, there's likely a good reason. But look, my favorite thing is, and you can add the reason here in a second, but basically what happened was Steve cracked out a SGC 9.5. There was damage on the back of it. But in the video, he then threw the card in the trash. Since Eric was talking about throwing in the trash. So this is a Kyler Murray. This is one of the inserts there, mythical out of 25, which I think was a $160 card, I think he said is basically what it was. But I think you mentioned that more than likely what happened was the insert caused the damage, more than likely.
Yeah, so I actually went and pulled the card. First of all, it ain't my money, but looking at comps, like, I don't know why he paid what he did, but that's none of my business. I put it somewhere in here, but I don't know if I'll be able to find it now because the thread's so long.
I think you said it was like 60 or 70 or something. Like, I think you had it about half, give or take.
Oh yeah, it had ended for like 76, I think, and then he paid like 165 or something on it. And it was within a short time period that the card had sold. And really, if you looked at the photos of the listing, you could see a line that would show like where that crease was. So it definitely wasn't him when he cracked it. I do agree with that assessment, but I don't have basically what happened. And really, I mean, it's none of my business. I'm surprised that SGC wouldn't reach out, but since he did crack it and everything else, there would be like this precedent set, and other people would probably try to use it to their advantage too. But
is there? I'm sorry. Is there a picture of the card in the slab damaged? Or
yes, you could actually see it in the eBay picture.
I will
that
see. I will see if I can find it.
there's a
So as we're
faint
talking,
line.
so Brandon, explain. But as we're talking, I will see if I can locate it.
Yeah. So I pulled the picture up, and you know how on the SGC slabs they have the corner cutouts. It's hard to see on this, but where the little corner cutouts are. So on that particular card, on that corner, there is like a hook of the plastic that is kind of sticking out, almost like a tooth from the corner where the plastic wasn't cut correctly.
Okay.
And what it appears, and I would be willing to bet money, the card was likely graded properly. But when the encapsulation team put it in there, it caught that little piece of the so if I don't
So
know
this
if you
is
can
so I'm going to zoom
on
in a
that.
second. I'm going to zoom in a second.
Yeah.
So this is the same card. So I showed you a second ago. It's number
Right.
6 of 25. You're looking at 6 of 25. It's the same card. It's a 2019 Optic Mythical Black Pandora Prism Kyler Murray in an SGC 9.5. So this is the card in question. So it's a little hard to see, but there's the best zoom in job I can do. It looks flat on there.
Yeah, and you can see that tooth I was talking about right there on that corner.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, and then you can tell there is a faint line that's right next that would match right up to what Steve showed. And likely what happened is the card was graded properly. So everybody's questioning SGC's grading. But when they encapsulated it, that area right there, that front surface caught that little like tooth that it looks like off of it. And when they encapsulated it, it bent that. And that's why it had that crease in there. And unfortunately, whoever was doing the encapsulation must not have said, hey, I screwed up, and went ahead and just slapped it together. So I don't put that on the grading. I know that's what it appears like, but when you see that picture right there, you can see the plastic jutted out there where it very easily.
The white line
that?
directly across from 25, that white line, is that what you're referring to?
You're looking right. You're looking right beside the little indicator there, Eric. If you can see, there's a little jagged edge to the end of that. To the end of that
it's
insert.
Like a tooth.
So what I'm gonna say, Brandon, and this is where we kind of have a little fun with it. Obviously, Steve got the end result of it, and I agree with your assessment. I actually think that's spot on. And one of the comments in the post was actually from Jason Cars and Comics, who have talked on the channel and had some conversations with, and he has criticized this. And to be fair, this is something. Thank you. This is something worthy of criticism. We want to be accurate about this. Whenever anything goes wrong at PSA, everybody gives them a lot of flack about it. They deserve it. Peter has yet to deliver the flying cars or my velvet bag 1 hour service, so he has failed me. So I have no reason to protect the man. The point is, though, that the inserts, in some cases, they cut out the inserts kind of custom, which can cause damage. And it has, not in 1 or 2 cards. It's happened in the past, and they've done a lot of things very well. But whenever you don't have a standardized insert and people are cutting out their own inserts, you create the possibility for something like this. If you're watching the video version of it, you'll be able to see it better. I zoomed in as best I could on this image, but the point is, you can see why in this image, the card is not yet damaged, but all it would take is the right amount of pressure on the side of the card. And at the right moment, it doesn't look like it's damaged yet, but by the time Steve gets it, it's definitely damaged.
But how?
No, it's damaged there. It's damaged. It's hard to see it in the photo.
It's hard to see because it looks flat the way the image is. So the image is kind of full.
There is a faint line that goes to where the crease is. It already had the damage done in that picture there. It happened when they encapsulated it. The card was laying on that tooth, and obviously it's pressure, and so it bent that up. And unfortunately, either the encapsulator didn't see it. I don't know who would have been at fault there. I'm not making any excuses. I think the card originally was graded properly, but it happened in the end process where they were encapsulating it. And when they took the photos and stuff, it should have been caught. I was told that they proofed these cards, but I have questioned that process because I've literally gotten early on when I submitted with them, this is when I was explained how the proofing goes, but I've gotten 2 Prism LeBron James back when the 2019 Prism LeBrons were a thing. I got a green and a base, and they were in opposite slabs. The green was in the base slab, the base was in the green, the label with the green. And I was like, how could you even screw that up? Like, completely different on the labels. And I was told, oh, well, they just look at the card. Well, how are you not looking at the label? Because to identify the card, you need to be looking at the label. So I think there's a lot of flaws in a lot of the processes. And when they're doing more and more and more and more, it's just like the whole PSA thing. Why do they get hit so many times? They're doing 1 million cards a month. Shit's gonna happen.
30 seconds. 30 seconds. That's all they get. 30 seconds.
And I also want to mention on the inserts, again, not making any excuses. That card, I think, was graded in 2021, if I remember right. I did check the cert number on it. I think they have changed the inserts slightly, and I'm not saying that they still won't damage a card, but they have appeared to be a bit better recently, and they did change them for like the TCG cards. They now have square corners instead of those little cutouts, because obviously TCGs have rounded corners. There's no need for that, and they were finding that the inserts were damaging those. So I don't know. It's something that they've done for a very long time, but got to be more careful.
Yeah.
You can't let shit like that happen.
Well, I think regardless.
Imagine if that was a
hey,
Ruth or something, you know?
Yeah. Well, no, that was kind of Jason's point, though. He's looked at some cards that are like not necessarily modern cards, where the insert has damaged some cards. Like the, and I had an old SGC. This is ye old SGC with the old
Mhm.
label and the old everything. And the thing is, the insert damaged that card too. And you could see it. It was very clear. The insert literally was so tight against the edge of it that it literally pushed part of the card up. You could see it visually right on the card. So it's not a new problem. It actually goes back. This is like the old green label with like the little
Mhm.
hologram back. Like this goes back, and this is when they had the 100 point scale. So like this is going back many iterations now, and they
Yeah,
had
that
the
would have
insert itself
been probably
way
late
back.
90s,
Yeah.
mid to
So
late 90s somewhere.
back then, the insert damaged the card. So the black insert, like it's one of those things where if you don't have a standardized one that is flat and it's positioned correctly and everything, you can easily damage it. So it's unfortunate. It's not the first time it's ever happened. I would agree though with one point you made. I would have at least, if I was Steve, I would have at least looked at. I would have taken a real close look at it first before I cracked it out. That would have been the first move. And if you saw something that, then I might have been like first to reach out to SGC first. But the moment you take it out of the slab, well, then it's the same thing happened with Beckett, because there was that case where somebody sued Beckett and they had the ability to show, hey, wait a minute, you just cracked it out. As soon as you crack it out, you change the chain of command. You could just as easily have damaged it out of the container in the process of removing it from the container, as opposed to leaving it in the holder, seeing the damage. And if we can see the damage and the holder is still intact, then we got to go backwards and go, wait a minute, it has to be somebody that dealt with it before or at the time of encapsulation.
Yeah, and again, I'm not making any excuses for anybody. And yes, I have used them for several years and sent many, 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 many cards to them. But knowing them guys, even though that card has exchanged hands, they don't want things like that out there. And they have been very good. Like the original owner should have reached out, honestly, and said, hey, this damage wasn't on there. But I don't think many people even look at their cards that way. And I think the first time it was sold, it was through DC Sports. It might have been graded and sent straight to consignment. The person may never even have seen it. So, and I don't know if DC, do they show back images on graded cards? I don't think they do.
So a lot of the consigners don't. A lot of the consigners don't.
Yeah, so it might not have even been spotted then. So again, there's many things that have went into this, and I don't know if it's changed hands any previous times before getting to DC Sports or not, but neither here nor there. The fact is, if somebody finds something like that, and I've told my group, I've told people that submit with us, I know it feels like you probably shouldn't, but there's a lot of benefits to it outside of just the grading aspect, because you have the postal side of things, shipping the cards and everything. Take pictures of your cards. I don't care. Keep a record and take pictures of your cards, because if something is to happen and you have the photos, you can prove that it was not like that, and they will cover if they damage. So I highly recommend it, not even just for the grading aspect, but what if your cards were lost or stolen or in the mail or whatever? Keep it just for your records. You're talking about a lot of money, and it's amazing how many people just don't. So just a suggestion.
There you go. Tips with Brandon from Bobbles and Ball Cards. So I think we'll conclude on that. I think that's a good episode. It's a bit of a mishmash, so hopefully you enjoyed. We went in a bunch of different directions. The takeaways, don't hashtag invest in general. It's general. It's usually not going to go. If you are going to take a flyer on something, just bear in mind your risk. We've actually talked about this a number of times, and I would say it's my takeaway from a lot of these things. Oftentimes, I recommend to somebody, look, if you want to do it, just understand what you're getting into. If you know what your odds are or what your risk factor is, then hey, then you're going in with your eyes open. Go for it. Do whatever you want to. You're an adult in a lot of cases. You figure it out. You do you. But a lot of people don't seem to understand, or they don't seem to be willing to do a little quick math, and you'll realize, wait a minute, how much do I have to lose? What's my downside? If you understand what your downside is, then you can generally make a good decision. When I was doing there, like my downside is very low. If it goes to zero, it's not a big deal. But you never know. If anything happens, it could potentially work out. It could be very interesting, and I'll report on it one way or the other. We can have some fun with that. But for the folks opening up the boxes, we talked about that as well. That's a lot of FOMO right now. And right now, I think some people already, only a couple of weeks in, are starting to be punished for the FOMO, because there's some people that already paid the higher price, and the thing is starting to settle down slowly downward towards what we expected will come down to. And I think we're eventually going to hit that point. And the example with that one that was a little bit edge damage, it started to approach the price of a hobby box. And when it starts getting close to the price of a hobby box, that's when it's going to get real interesting, because then all of a sudden, yeah, even if you pull the card you're trying to pull, maybe you make your money back on the box. Then it's not really as nearly as appealing for a lot of folks. Then they're kind of shooting for some of the other ones. That's why I said the outburst or the clear cut, some of those ones. If you put one of those and you really want to hang on to it, those might be a little bit more interesting for me. But the base version, I think you're going to get another shot or two to be able to purchase them if that's what you really want. Otherwise, just kind of watch and enjoy the ride. Being a bystander, being an observer right now is a lot of fun. It's actually a pretty good spot to be in, being an observer, because we get to kind of enjoy and see what happens. Enjoying the enthusiasm of others there, and kind of getting to enjoy it from a safe space where you can enjoy it without having to shell out the money.
Yeah, my wallet's in the safe space in my back pocket. Yep.
I'd rather be observing right now. Right now is a good time to be observing, and pick your spots very carefully is all I would say about that. So that'll be it for us this time around. So Brandon, Bobbles and Ball Cards and 540 Flips. You can check them out on those YouTube channels. We've got links in the description. You got Eric Sanderson-Dor. He will personally give you directly investment advice, tell you about all the hot prospects that you should be investing in, and tell you how many Connor Bedard you should be buying. Second mortgage your house. Do whatever you need to do. Get those Connor Bedards per Eric. Thumbs up. And if you could hit the thumbs up, then Eric always appreciates and enjoys that. See? It works. The system works. Beautiful. All right, so that's it for this time around. More videos coming up on the channel. Live streams on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we're at least 15% less mature than we are on this episode. And as Carlos continues his journey to figure out the game of baseball, because apparently he doesn't know it. Not at all. Not even a little bit.
I'll be there with you.
Yeah, like it's like, Brandon, we're gonna have to do some remedial classes somewhere. Like, I need to watch Ken Burns baseball or something. I need to figure this out. It's bad times. It's a bad scene, man. It's a bad scene. That was gonna kill me. Eric. Led the league in wins. I've
never heard of the guy, so I can't help you.
Man, look, it would be like if one of your freaking Bruins led the league in goals. Like, hey, who's that?
No, I would team to lead
the league in goals.
Yeah, I would do that.
Yeah, no, not so much. Anyway, all right. So that's it for us. We'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.
Bye, guys.